Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of our new reimagined Toys for Engineers, which we're bringing to you live via Toys4Engineers.ie and Water Chamber Facebook page. Today's panel discussion, which is sponsored by the Waterford Local Enterprise Office, will focus on pharma, research and tech. And we're delighted to be joined by Innovation and Strategy expert Fergal Brophy as today's chair. But before I hand you over to Fergal, I just wanted to let you know what else is happening as part of the Toys for Engineers event this year. Our Meet the Buyer sessions are ongoing with nearly 100 meetings scheduled over the 3 days. So we're well into day 2 now of that. And during which time we're connecting Indigenous companies with multinationals in the hope of them doing business together. And this has been a collaborative effort between ourselves, IDA Ireland and Enterprise Ireland. And in these times, more than ever, any support we can give our local business community is so important. We're delighted to be joined by companies from across the country, and I sincerely hope there's good business being done throughout these meetings. In addition, we have our Digital Expo. You'll have seen a selection of videos at the start of our stream, and there are more to come after our panel discussion. So please take the time to watch these videos. They may just have the service or product that you need, and we'd be happy to connect you if you're interested. We're also using this opportunity to encourage anybody looking to move to Waterford to review the large amount of live roles which are currently available in Waterford. And thanks to the support of Crystal Valley Tech, we have a video of these jobs on offer. And in terms of quality of life, great schools, cheaper houses, Waterford certainly a place that people would be interested now, and we hope you find your dream job today. In relation to this event, taking the easy road and cancelling this year's event was never an option. And based on the response from yesterday and knowing what's to come, I'm confident we made the right decision by going ahead with this year's Toys for Engineers event. It's been a rough couple of days in terms of COVID-19, so positive events like this are all the more important right now. So thank you to our daily sponsors, IDA Ireland, Cabot Skillnet, and Waterford Local Enterprise Office, and to Enterprise Ireland and Crystal Valley Tech for all their hard work. And last but by no means least, thank you to Waterford City and County Council, our overall sponsors. So without further ado, can I please hand you over to our moderator for today's session, Fergal Brophy. Thanks, Fergal.
Hey, Jared, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that introduction. I have to say, in the lead up to this, I have been totally wowed by the amazing work that Toys for Engineers have been doing over the last couple of years, but particularly in the lead up to this. I mean, to have a facility like that available to us in Waterford, in the sunny southeast, where you're essentially got a third party facilitating meeting up with buyers, getting local organizations meeting up with international buyers. It's such a fantastic idea, I have to say, and I have to take my hats off to Jared and his team there. So yeah, look, a very quick introduction. My name is Fergal Brophy. I'm an entrepreneurial specialist at the UCD Innovation Academy, and I work all the time particularly with the SME community, trying to support their creativity and innovation efforts. I'm absolutely delighted to be hosting this kind of fireside chat with my colleagues and peers here today. So let's get straight into it, guys. So I suppose I'd like to start by maybe asking you to introduce yourself, just quick introduction. Tell us a little bit about your company or organization, and maybe how have you navigated COVID so far? Maybe start with Louise.
Hi there, thanks Fergal. I'm Louise Grubb, I'm the CEO of Q1 Scientific. I set up Q1 Scientific here in Waterford in 2013. It's a stability storage facility for the pharmaceutical, medical device and life sciences industries. So essentially what we do is we provide a highly controlled temperature and humidity environmental control for the pharmaceutical companies. The idea behind this was looking at large pharma, of which we have a cluster in the southeast, but also within Ireland. There's a lot of pressure in terms of capital expenditure, and they're always looking for cost reduction. So is there a way that we could provide outsourced services for the pharmaceutical industry? And this is where Q1 Scientific came from, because it's a huge capital investment for any pharma company to build these big contained units, and we've been able to take that in a cost-effective way from the pharmaceutical companies. We have a team based here in Waterford. We've expanded considerably over the last number of years, increasing our footprint. We are GMP approved so that we meet all the standards for the FDA in the US, as well as all the other pharmaceutical standards. So we've been growing the business very nicely here in Waterford, and delighted to take part in today's event.
And tell us, Louise, how has COVID affected the business, positively or negatively? Or
yeah, I suppose we're probably fortunate in that we're in the pharmaceutical space, and certainly the immediate response was really, how do we make sure that we get our team safely in and out of the building, because it's hands-on. We run a 24/7 facility and we need the backups. So we thought, that was the immediate issue. We divided everyone up into pods so that people would meet, and we had to do some structural work internally. From a business perspective, thankfully, it's been very positive. Companies have continued with their R&D activities and their commercial activities in terms of manufacture. Where we see probably the challenge is, a lot of audits. In order for us to be approved to be used by a company, we need to be audited on site, and that's proving difficulty. So our pipeline of new clients and new customers is something we're really focused on, and we're trying to be as innovative as possible in trying to get people even remotely to see what we're doing. So I think that's going to be the longer challenge, and we have to see what will happen in the pharmaceutical industry, whether they continue to have that same input into R&D, or whether there'll be a certain stall of projects.
And just Louise, just focusing on that, because I find that so interesting, is the problem there people's reluctance to come into the facility, or is it getting people into the country, because these are international people who might need to come in?
Yeah, it's actually a bit of both, because from the big pharma companies, their audit team would be international, could be based anywhere. So we've been trying to, we've created videos, whereby, the auditors can, visually, walk around the facility. A lot of the quality management system in any case is paperwork, so we can share that and we can do that. So from that perspective, we're trying to find ways around it. I think the bigger challenge, as you say, though, is how do we get clients to, most of what we do is, face-to-face, it's by reputation. So we're using all the different platforms now. We've run some webinars. We've tried to be as innovative as possible to get our name out there, because what we provide is called stability storage. And if I was telling anyone about stability storage, their eyes would glaze over until there was a requirement for it. And then suddenly they go, oh, we need stability storage. Where will we go? And it tends to be to Google. So surprisingly, for pharmaceutical companies, we get a lot of our business through the internet, through a Google search. And then that's why we need to be out there. They need, companies need to know that we're there, because when they need us, then, do you remember that company in Waterford? And hopefully, surprisingly, but that is how we generate a lot of business.
Interesting, very interesting. Thanks so much for that, Louise. Miguel, I'm going to hand over to you next. You might tell us a little bit about your organisation and also how your organisation has operated through COVID thus far.
Absolutely, Fergal. So just to introduce myself maybe just for a second, I'm what's called the Technology Gateway Manager here at the TSSG, which is based at Waterford Institute of Technology. Myself, I'm in the ICT industry over 25 years now, so I've seen the ups and downs of the internet being used, being overused, and essentially being reused again for many different industries. I mean, I would have looked at it for mobile systems in the early noughties or late 90s, early noughties, then being used for, we'll say, entertainment and applications that we see. And today, actually, I happen to be using computer science data to help companies in the energy, in the manufacturing perspective, because you're seeing very manual processes, very manual activities that may have used spreadsheets and things like this, actually becoming more automated. And how to link, and one of my key roles actually within the TSSG is to be able to link research that we do, because essentially we're always looking at 5 to 10 years ahead in ICT, but things that we would have worked on over the last number of years are now coming to fruition or could be used by companies in their, what we would call digital transformation. In some ways, I don't really like using the word digital transformation because it kind of has already happened, right? This whole thing with us kind of working from home, working with online systems, you can see now that a number of, again, what we would call manual processes have been encodified within software in some way. And that's what we help here with the TSSG. We help companies be able to identify, what is and what are their manual processes? Are there existing software tools that they could use? Or do they need to build new software tools into their processes, into their programs to essentially get the main benefits of going digital?
So my understanding of the TSSG is, it's like is it simplistic to say it's like a technology transfer unit of Waterford Institute?
Yeah, I mean, that'd be a good way of looking at it. But the key thing is, I've been involved in startups. I've been involved in 3 startups. I've had some success. I've also had failures. I know what it is to look for that purchase order with a large multinational waiting for the 90 days for them potentially to pay for the invoice, and you're trying to build up a company. So it's having this kind of linkage between understanding and doing research with software, with data analytics, or being able to peel back when people say artificial intelligence, they say machine learning, but what does it mean for a company that's looking to add this potentially to their business process? This is what the TSSG can help with. It can be your R&D arm that kind of break the back of maybe some of the initial kind of work that you're going to do in this space. And we have, we'll say, governmental systems to be able to pay for some of this early part of investigation, this R&D. There are things like innovation vouchers from Enterprise Ireland. There are feasibility studies available through the local LEO, Waterford, Kilkenny, and Wexford have been very active and very good in these spaces. And we can help with gaining leverage or gaining access to these funds, and then been helping with the R&D activity around it.
Brilliant. And what about COVID? How has it affected your organization?
There's been obviously there's been good and there's been bad. Okay, the bad part has been, very much when you're looking at future things, innovation you find is about being able to speak and connect with people. And we'll say even online, it's sometimes the serendipity of just bumping into somebody in a corridor and just talking about a topic. It's been trying to how to facilitate that in an online environment. It isn't easy, although some of the things that we have done internally has been to, more regular meetings, but shorter, having what we call retrospectives at the end of every 2 weeks. This is looking back at how things have gone. So finding other kind of forums to be able to facilitate feedback. Also, again, a big part of my role is to connect with startup companies, with scaling SMEs and with SMEs. And this means new people. And again, in an environment where you can't go to an expo, initially it was finding a little bit difficult, well, how do I bump into people? But this is where networks and getting introductions from networks of networks have proven to be very successful over the summer. It's been really good. And the big thing has been, I've seen a number of people from companies that they've had an idea. They've been sitting on an idea for the last wee while. They've now been at home, been able to think about the idea. And they want to interact with somebody to say, can somebody help me with the tech direction? And this has been the great positive around COVID-19. I've been and helped, I think, at least 4 or 5 people now start their companies, help them understand how to get going, get access to some of the early grants to see, is their idea feasible? is there a potential market for this? And is there a technology roadmap that they can go for? And so coming now into Q4 of 2020, we've been just so busy, inundated with a number of those types of companies kind of working with us, and we're helping them with their R&D.
Miguel, that's fantastic to hear. I have to say something resonated with me there when you alluded to the fact that people can actually reach out to people, and they're much more likely now than maybe in the past when we were just so busy. They're much more likely now, I think, to help and support one another.
Exactly.
And I say this to entrepreneurs and innovators all the time. Now is the time to do your empathy more than ever before, particularly if you're a business-to-business offering. In the past, it's been very difficult to get the right people and to talk to those, to get them to give up their time to meet you and to chat. But now this kind of together we are stronger kind of mentality has really resonated, and everybody's now prepared to spend that few minutes helping one another out. And it's marvelous. This is marvelous for the innovators, because the hidden treasure, as we all know, is in the empathy. It's in that kind of user discovery piece. It's in the kind of conversations. So yeah, that really resonates with me, Miguel. Well done. Susan, tell us a little bit about your organization and a little bit about your COVID experience.
Hi, Fergal. So I'm Sinead, Queally, the co-founder and managing director of VirtualVet. We're a software company that focuses on the surveillance of veterinary medicine usage, particularly in food-producing animals. So our customers are organizations along the value chain, really with the responsibility to know what's going into their products and being used in their supply chain. And our clients, our users, are farmers and vets that send us the information, and we curate it, quality check it, and perform analysis and sell the insights and information coming from those data. COVID has been good to us. We've been very, very lucky. A few advantages, kind of timing was good. We, at the beginning of the year, had just moved our entire operation anyway to using Microsoft Office 365. So remote wasn't a problem. Similar to Louise, it was kind of looking after the employees first. And then that gave the business the footing to actually be able to operate and function and serve our customers pretty much normally. So that was fine the first few weeks, getting our heads around that. And then what we noticed during the summer and continuing now towards the end of the year is a greater awareness from people, our customers' pipeline, of the importance of actually knowing what's going on, what's in food, the concept of zoonotic diseases, the transfer of pathogens from animals to humans and vice versa, and just a greater awareness around health and the One Health approach, which is the real reliance for humans on animals being healthy. So it's actually been very good for us, Fergal. We're okay.
Good stuff. Did I hear you saying there that you are ultimately, the business model is selling the data on the
selling the insights and the information and the analysis? Yeah. Nobody really wants raw data. It's of little or no use to anybody in one sense. It's the people are busy. We deal with very busy organizations. They just want answers. So we sell the answers. They come to us with the questions.
You're essentially mining that data and transferring it into actionable insights.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow. I love it. And my apologies. I think I called you Susan at the beginning. So Sinead, my bad. Thank you so much for that. So far, people have been doing quite well in Waterford during COVID, obviously on the business front only. Jonathan, how are you? Tell us about your organization and a little bit about how COVID has been treating the organization.
Yeah, so I'm Jonathan Downey. I'm the Managing Director of Artesyn Biosolutions. We were set up in California about 30 years ago, but we have our global headquarters here in Waterford now. I've been here about 4 years. I've been with the company about 12 months, having kind of served 20 years in medical devices. And we've grown significantly over the last 12 to 18 months. We've gone from kind of 10 people to 45 people. And COVID has had a good and a bad effect on us. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. So we have our clean room manufacturing, and obviously people in a clean room can't work from home because you can't bring a clean room home with you. However, we've also got about 15 engineers who are all working from home. And when COVID first hit, one of the guys indicated to me that he had potentially had contact with somebody. So I made the decision very early on to send the guys home. And they've actually been more productive working from home than, and this is not a criticism, don't get me wrong, but the productivity has gone up by, I'd say, about 20% as the guys are working from home. I'm in day one of working from home myself. I've been lucky that I've been in the office for the last kind of couple of months, but we're lucky in that we haven't been negatively affected. If anything, we've been somewhat positively affected because the products we make are all around the biopharmaceutical processing process. So it's single-use systems. So our customers are clamoring to find this virus, and it's a very hot topic, or it's to find the vaccine, sorry. It's a very kind of hot topic, but yeah, Fergal, we've managed to weather the storm. I'm terrified that we'll have an outbreak, because if we do, I can't compel guys to come into work. So, you know, we will have to effectively shut down, I think, out of a sense of kind of caring for our people, to be honest. So, yeah, there's interesting times ahead. I don't think we're out of this storm yet, though. Absolutely, I believe the stormy clouds ahead.
No. Just tell us a little bit about what Artesyn Biosolutions. I mean, could you have some kind of is it possible that Waterford could have some kind of an input into the ultimate vaccine that's found?
Absolutely, yeah. So our customers, medicines nowadays, the next generation biomedicines are not chemicals; they're active biopharmaceuticals. Now, the problem with manufacturing those medicines is that if you want to run product A day one and then you want to run product B day two, there's extensive cleaning and validation that needs to happen in your process. So all our big customers are increasingly adopting our single-use technology. So what that means is that we supply the products that allow them to line their systems, and it's a more complicated process than I understand. I've people way smarter than me working with the organization, but we allow them to basically take the liner systems out of their products and switch over very, very quickly. And these are very expensive medicines. So, you know, we are working for a customer at the moment in Waterford, the customers in Ireland, to support them in their vaccine development. So, you know, it's all good. We'll support those guys. We're working with them. We're developing their process. Ultimately it's a couple of months away before we see a vaccine. But we are at the forefront of helping some of our customers to develop that.
Well, with such an essential service, I presume you really haven't doubled down on the kind of ways of working, let's call it, inside those inside that facility, because we need you. We need you, man.
We've gone on to a second shift, and the engineers are working with our customers. So, look, uncharted waters ahead.
Keep it up. Good on you. What an amazing group of panelists, eh? I mean, so much kind of really high-tech stuff going on there. So one thing I've been very struck with over the last 7 months or so is the talk of what happens when how the new normal is going to look, and maybe even what is the post-COVID environment going to look like. And we hear this word around repurposing and reimagining and rethinking and all this kind of good stuff. But what I was really struck with is, for somebody who lived very much in the moment during the financial recessions of 2008, 9, and 10, with my own fintech business, the narrative that time was all around retrenchment and cutback. The narrative this time is all around this idea of reimagining and repurposing and rethinking. It's all around creativity and innovation. And I was hoping that you might share an innovation story with us in relation to your own organization, like something that you thought was fairly cool. It could be anything now, from a way of working to a new product, to a new service, to a new business model, anything at all. Louise, can we start with your good self?
Yeah, I was going to say the simplest thing is we moved the kettle, which was a big move, and had to buy a new kettle. And, you know, because we had to divide the team up into the pods. And while that seems like a really small thing, it's a big thing, because for me, it's all about the team. And in any of my organizations, it's about the team and to keep them together. So I do hope that eventually we'll bring that kettle back into one, you know, into the one area. So just moving people out, that was an innovation, and people have adhered to it, you know, and you know, they're working through this. But what I face the biggest challenge with is the one-to-ones and face-to-face. And we do business once we've established our businesses, you know, and you have a certain amount of business coming in. That's wonderful, and Zoom is great, and you know, and all of this, but to generate more businesses face to face, you know, building relationships. So in other businesses, in other areas, I would travel an awful lot because I need to meet people to start the relationship, and then you can retrench to Zoom. So I worry that, you know, I don't like talking about the new norm in the sense that, you know, we can all work from home or whatever, because you won't generate new business sitting in my office, wonderful as it is here in Waterford. We do need to eventually get out there. Now, we need to be innovative in how we get out there. I think I mentioned earlier that we're trying to do, you know, we've done sophisticated videos of our operation so that people can see virtually what we're doing. And again, other things that we're doing where we have, you know, we've got ways of trying to get people, you know, virtually into the space. But ultimately, we still need to get out there to meet people, and I'd be quite hopeful that once this gets under control, you know, and we get more testing, that we will be able to. Now that sounds a little bit negative, but I think it's realistic if you want to grow further. It's been amazing how groups have worked with us. The TSSG, other parts that we work with, WIT and the PMBRC, which do some electrochemical, do some pharmaceutical work for us. And then all those teams have continued to work through this. But ultimately, getting to the end consumer, we need to be able to get out and about. So I'd be interested to hear what other people think of that, but that's sort of our innovation so far.
Well, I will say, just my own experience again is I'm actually mentoring a lady at the moment. She's a senior manager in Salesforce, and she's currently carrying out 3 different experiments on how to effectively sell online. And it's so interesting, the work she's doing. So one of them is around kind of packaging up a quick tailor-made video and sending it to the client beforehand that gives you a little bit of an insight into you. And, you know, it's a little bit more chatty, and it's a little bit more tailored around their organization, the customer's organization, if you like. And then she's got 2 other plays, quite similar, but different nonetheless. And so she has given them to her team, and they are now, they're going to do 25 sales calls with each of the techniques and compare the results. So while I agree with you that you never beat the face-to-face, it's interesting that we are becoming so creative around how we can use virtual communication to its maximum effect. I mean, we are very early stage in virtual communication. So
it's interesting, and I just would say, picking up on your fintech background, you know, have you ever invested in anyone who you didn't meet, at least the promoter, you know, and see the color of their eyes?
Never.
And so I think that startup, you know, financial environment where funding is difficult anyway. I mean, we've been through various funding rounds. We closed a round there in March with difficulty because we, you know, just people's circumstances change. So it's just another area that, you know, look in that financial, which affects the businesses you have here, where we're looking for finance. And again, you know, I'd be slow to invest when I haven't met you. You know, so again, it'd be interesting to see. It's a challenge. So Open to all solutions.
Yeah, no, fair dues to you. Good on you. Miguel, you might talk about innovation. It doesn't have to be since COVID, by the way. It could be anything that you really kind of liked in terms of how you tackled a particular issue or seized an opportunity.
Well, I have to say, I really love Louise's first example of, you spoke about innovation and mentioned about moving the kettle. I love that because, you know, because you did say at the start, you know, you have individuals here that look at high-tech, future-proofing activities. And I have found that kind of frightens some people and some companies to do some early interaction, because they think the word innovation means that there's going to be this big, massive thing that has to get done in order to move something forward. Whereas what I always say to any new company, any new individual that I work with is, can we just break down maybe one specific issue or problem, or could we just spend a little bit of time looking at maybe a list of problems, prioritize one of them, and let's see, can we move the needle just a little bit forward on that? And that's innovation, because if it's helping you, whether it's automating a process in some way or changing a process in some way, then you know that is also counted as innovation. And you just happen, again with the TSSG, you just happen to be able to gain access to research that we have had to hand over the last number of years. So you basically get a number of toolkits to be able to tackle maybe some of the problems. And that is when we start to talk about the high-tech part. But to give you some examples, Fergal, and in truth, you know, again, when I start to work with any kind of startup company, and like I said, I've been involved with a couple now over the last couple of months, actually 4 of them, invariably, again, the kind of things that will be said to me is, I have this idea, I do know there's a customer problem, but I don't know anything about technology. I nearly, you know, I know nothing about technology. And I always say to them, but that's okay. Having customer empathy, understanding what your customer problem is probably a big part of what your business will be. We will help you with identifying what kind of tech that can be used around this. So again, blockchain, and I know it's a buzzword at the moment, blockchain, but what I say to a couple of companies is, okay, we know this is a technology that will come into this supply chain management space. So let's have a little look though around your supply chain management. What is the product platform and what technology of blockchain is most appropriate for how it will be to help the clients and customers that you're interacting with? And there's been 2 companies that I've been helping, you know, again, just get an idea around what this would be. And of course, for the TSSG, for us, it's about being able to integrate with other companies then in Ireland that are actually maybe have that blockchain solution. So for us, it's been able to give a company direction, but then link them to others that might be able to build out the solution, build out the platform for them. When it comes to bigger companies, and we just talked about virtual reality or augmented reality has been a really interesting project that we've done over the summer period. We've been helping a pharmaceutical with a new product where basically you couldn't, like they have the 3D models of it, but they couldn't physically show it to some of the folks that are based around the world. And what we've been helping them is just be able to identify how can you use a mobile phone, look at a QR code, and then on your phone appears the digital 3D version of this particular object, and that you can look around it in this virtual environment. So it basically means that you could send, and what we've been looking to do is send beer mats to individuals, then they can point their phones at it, and what it will link them to is a 3D model of this particular object. Again, for us, it's about being able to kickstart the idea, and then it's to let the company say, well, oh, how will we build it out? How will we build that out bigger? How could we work with partners to make this a productized item that can go into our portfolio? So wow, that's a couple of
Louise, have you thought about virtual reality, using virtual reality to facilitate these kind of tours of your facility?
Yeah, probably what we have done is not as high tech as that, but yeah, and considering that we've got some great VR companies in Waterford, one in particular, which is literally around the corner from us, that might be something that we have to look at. Again, it just seems so high tech as somebody who's barely able to press the mute button, but I'm thinking that. No, but we do have to look for that, and it'll be interesting if down the chain, in terms of like where we are on the chain of sales. So we sell into big pharma, but it's down at the laboratory level that somebody chooses our service, and finding that person is always incredibly difficult. So maybe something imaginative that, you know, they might just happen upon us would be something that we could look at in the future.
Make the call to that VR startup that's in Waterford. Guys, and before I move on to Susan and to Jonathan to talk about your innovation story, I want to just take this quick message from the sponsor.
At the present moment, if you were a business in Waterford, and especially a small business, you were probably confused, possibly overwhelmed, and certainly unsure about what to do next. You are also probably feeling very much on your own. You are not. What the local enterprise office is saying is, please contact us. We are here to help. Your own health at the moment, the health of your family and the health of your employees are obviously the absolute priorities. But the health of your business into the longer term is also important. And we are here specifically to help you on that one.
As a business owner, you may have questions around issues such as HR, finance, or general business. So with this in mind, we are offering a service whereby you can call our office with your query, and a specialist in that area will get back to you very quickly to discuss. This is a confidential service and is open to all businesses. We can also signpost you to other supports.
As of today, the 18th of March, the government has announced a number of assistances for businesses as COVID-19 escalates. These include the increase of the maximum loan available from Microfinance Ireland up to 50,000. Please talk to us if you want to apply for a Microfinance Ireland loan. The COVID-19 Working Capital Loan Scheme that's available through the Strategic Banking Corporation of Ireland. There's also the Credit Guarantee Scheme, where there's an 80% guarantee by the government on loans through participating banks, which include AIB, Bank of Ireland and Ulster Bank. Please apply through these banks for this loan scheme. The Department of Employment Affairs and Social Protection are offering shorter working payment schemes for those that have been put on shorter working weeks, and for those unfortunate people, either employees or self-employed, that have been laid off. There's the COVID-19 payment that's available for 6 weeks while you apply for the standard payments. If you have a query or question, we're here to help and to try and steer you in the best possible direction. Please talk to us.
The business environment is changing daily, if not hourly. The local enterprise office is determined over the next while to develop and to deliver a set of services specifically designed to make the situation as manageable for the business community in Waterford as it possibly can be. Let us keep talking and listening, and that includes within our businesses. Keep all communication lines open. Look, we won't promise miracles, but what we do promise is to listen to one another. Mind yourself, and if you need a friend in enterprise, please give us a shout.
So that was a message from our very kind sponsor of this Toys4Engineers event. And for those of you with us just before that message, we had asked both Louise and Miguel to share with us an innovation story. It could be pre-COVID or during COVID that they just, it struck a chord with them. And we had two lovely examples there. So Sinead, what about your little innovation story that you'd like to share?
Well, we built the system to facilitate remote, surveillance and remote analysis of supply chains and veterinary medicine usage within them. And it was there was a lot of pushback still from customers to kind of, okay, this remote, how would we do it? How would it work? And would farmers object? But then COVID came along, and all of a sudden, everything had to be remote, particularly remote audits, for example, Board BIA, who we're working with to support some of that work. And the farmers just took to it like a duck to water, because they'd already been doing WhatsApp and Zoom calls with families. I was telling you about my dad getting mass. on the tablet. So it's just, you know, what it was, as Miguel was saying, you know, what's needed to just move the dial a little bit. Is the incentive for the person, for the user, actually enough to make them go online, to make them do something remotely? And that's what we've noticed. So the technology was never an issue. We had it built. It was now this motivator for the customers to actually be able to get their users to actually embrace it. So that's been huge for us.
So interesting you say that. You know, I think across all technology platforms and apps, we've moved ourselves forward probably 24 or 36 months in just 6 months.
Yeah.
And it's that, I think, when the history books are written on COVID, when we get to the behavioral side, I think that is going to be a significant part of the COVID story, is going to be that kind of leap of faith that we all took almost overnight, and how well it all worked. I have friends of mine who constantly give out to me about technology. You and your technology this, technology that, Fergal. They don't say that to me anymore. They go, thank God for the technology, Fergal. So anyway, Jonathan, over to you, my man. Tell us a little innovation story that you'd like to share with us, maybe on Artesyn or maybe not.
Yeah, look, I mean, not to try and nominate myself as the founder member of the Louise Grubb fan club, but I mean, your example was excellent about moving the kettle. Innovation doesn't need to be reinventing the wheel. It doesn't need to be, you know, the invention of fire or something like that. It can be incremental. And, you know, when we started here in Waterford, when we started properly implementing manufacturing here, it was the constant little steps that the guys were making. You know, I had engineers coming to my door every day saying, hey, why don't we do it this way? And, you know, you know, our technology is built on a fantastic premise. You know, the rapid manufacturing of biomedicines, but it is those small incremental things. Like we use 3D printing, and 3D printing was a very sexy term kind of 4 years ago. I was in Shivo Medical. We brought printers in, and honestly, when we did, I went to our customers and said, okay, what would you like us to print? And they looked at me blankly, even though the whole country was talking about it. It was kind of like, oh no, somebody's actually come to us now and challenged us to use this technology. But now, you know, we've adopted it, and it's just become I hate the term, but it's become the new normal. So, you know, I think it's all those small things that people do that, you know, kind of brings us forward a little bit. And yeah, you'll have the eureka moments, you'll have your SpaceX moments, but you need to have all the small, smaller eurekas in small letters rather than capital letters, I think, for what it's worth.
Yeah. No, I think I actually have decided now I'm going to steal Louise's idea. I'm going to recall that to people in future type of webinars.
You're now the president of the Louise Grubb fan.
Louise
Grubb fan club, right?
I patented that now before I came online here. So
I am going to, the post I'm going to put up on LinkedIn tomorrow is going to be specifically in relation to Louise's post. So
move the kettle.
Congratulations to Jonathan for that one. But no, there is an awful lot to be said for incremental innovation. And I always say that if there's enough small wins, it'll add up to big wins very, very quickly. And we don't need to be looking for the transformational or disruptive innovation around the corner, because
Fergal, it's not always about the moonshot.
Exactly. It's not always about the moonshot. Good on you. Good on you. Yeah, love it. Very quickly, I'll tell you the story you told there about the 3D printers. In 1996, a friend of mine was lecturing the IT in Tallinn. And he rang me up one day and he said, you'll have to come up here. He said, we're after getting the internet. And I said, what? And we had read about the internet, but nobody had ever been on it. So into the car I went, over to Tala, into the IT, and there's the two of us sitting down at his desktop in his office. And he turns it on, and next thing I go, what are we supposed to put in? And he says, put in any search you want. Like what? He says, I don't know. He says, this is the first time I've been in front of it myself. And we're looking at one another, and you know what? We put in Cindy Crawford. That was the only thing we could think of, right? And all these photographs of Cindy Crawford come up, right? She's a model, for those of you who, she was a model that time, because I used to work with Pepsi, and she was the face of Pepsi, if you like. But we literally didn't know what to use it for, this internet thing. We didn't know how to. A search engine is great, but I mean, what do you want to search? Because we'd never been able to search for anything. Our whole lives, we've been served things up to then, and we just consumed whatever we were given. So there's a little bit like that. Guys, I tell you, I want to move on the conversation just a little bit to the broader picture and the local ecosystem that you enjoy down there in Waterford. And I particularly want to ask you about the sunny Southeast as a region that helps to support your organisation. And I'm probably thinking particularly of ecosystem players that you have down there, like the Waterford Institute of Technology and the great people there, like Enterprise Ireland, the local Leo in Waterford, Waterford Chamber, organisations like Toys4Engineers, all this type of stuff. Anybody like to start me off? Louise, tell us, how important are these ecosystem players to your organisation?
I mean, they're essential, and then we would have used all of those that you've mentioned, from the start of the business to scaling the business. But one of the things I think that's really important, and where I suppose it's kind of like a sideline of this particular meeting, has been how nice it is to live here, because again, it's all about the team and the beauty. I'm from Tramore. We just recently won an award from Tramore, and I'm back living in Tramore again after being away for some time, and we'll never leave now. So that's a good thing, because I'll always start up businesses and I'll hopefully provide employment here. But what is important is to attract to a region. Like, we have so much to offer in the area. We have clusters in terms of, say, pharmaceuticals. So we have jobs, and what's very important of bringing someone to a region is, if I move to the Southeast and for this job, what if that doesn't work out? I've moved the whole family, and what do we do? So I think in pharmaceuticals and in tech, if you do move here, there are other opportunities. So I think that's really important, and that has to be kind of built up over time. I think the other thing that we have is we've got a lot at our doorstep. So we've got, the feel of a city where you have you have WIT, and then you have the arts and entertainment under normal circumstances that are here that people can enjoy, and then they can still be at home in 10 minutes and walk the beach or walk by the river or walk to the mountains. So we've recently had 2 people that we've taken on. One moved from Cork and one moved from Galway. Bought houses very recently in Tramore. And so I feel very optimistic about that what we're doing is working. We're attracting people to the region. We had to do a lot of work, I think, to get the critical mass here. And maybe COVID will be good to us, that people will see the opportunity that, they can, move to a region where the resources are there, and then you can have a better quality of life.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Louise. Miguel, what do you think?
Again, well, I'm going to start with, the local ecosystem has been hugely important for me. The South Business Innovation Centres, the Southeast BIC has been brilliant. Richie and Breed inside in the local Leo here in Waterford. Again, it's, we have a number of people who are coming with ideas, and sometimes they come immediately with the tech idea. And I've had to say to at least 2 companies not so recently ago that, dealing with researchers in tech actually isn't where you need to be right now. You need to think about your market and your business. And here are the contacts and the types of people. Again, Aidan Shine in the Southeast BIC. Please have a chat and a conversation with those people first to see, have you got the market fit before you even think about the product? Because sometimes they're honing in nearly too much on the product. And again, I couldn't do this without the ecosystem. Where I'm sitting today, I can say, look, we have 80 engineers that can look at tech activities, but we don't have the answers to all the different elements. And as well as that, I'm part of a network. So we've had people, and I've said, look, the best people to speak to are in Kerry. The best lad for this type of activity is actually up in Donegal. Here's these contact details. Have a chat with them about doing that. So again, there's also the wider Irish connectivity. I know we want to promote, and again, the Southeast as a living area is brilliant, and I have a few words to say on that, but there is also an Irish diaspora here that we try and connect to, not even just in Ireland, but again, when you go to connect to other countries out towards Europe and the US.
Brilliant.
So that's been a big thing. But I will say, okay, I have lived here in Kilkenny. You can see from my name, a well-known traditional Kilkenny name, right? But I've been living here since 2002. I know how hard it's been to be living in the southeast and trying to get up to Paulstown, which is an area just in the middle or north of Kilkenny, and the roads were just terrible. And where I was going to was trying to get to the airport. And it was hours to try and get up there, and all the public transport. And today, I mean, look, the connectivity from a car perspective to get down here is brilliant. And the thing I've learned over COVID has been the amount of things that we have access to. I've had to go to the Cumra Mountains and Cumshinon Lake, which is just brilliant. The Greenway, 40 odd kilometers of just getting on your bike and being able to bring yourself and the kids, although they did give me a hard time on the way back because they felt it was a bit long. But the Greenway is just fantastic. The viaducts, these old viaducts that you just really can't get anywhere. And then you get to be beside the sea as well. Look, it's completely transformed down here. And I suppose the last thing I'd like to say is just around broadband. Everybody will say, well, then, since we're going towards a digital world, will we have connectivity to broadband? And just last week, I've been helping a local community here, Piltown Fidown. Now, in fairness, they've been helping themselves. They've been doing the hard work, but they've been looking as a community, can they roll their own fiber? Can they put in their own internet connectivity and have it managed and interconnected with the local area so that they can have the types of access that we'd be only expecting inside in the main cities? People are taking it on for themselves, and they will be successful with that project. They already have a number of bits of funding and a good bit of sponsorship to make that happen, which means that we are not left out from a broadband perspective either.
Fair dues to you. Great, great. And of course, another good positive around living in Kilkenny or Waterford is that you're close to Carlow, which is where I'm from.
Yeah. No, all great community, great community.
Sinead, tell us about the ecosystem and how it's impacted on you.
Yeah, well, I worked previously with Miguel in the TSSG, so very familiar with the serendipitous meetings in corridors and the cafe, and you're right, it's such a breeding ground for ideas and introducing you to technologies and different groups of people with different takes on technology, working with people all over Europe and beyond on projects and really futuristic stuff, and then you can kind of try and percolate and apply it to current issues, which is where the seed of this idea of this business came from. This applying data management and GDPR compliant data management approach to a problem that I knew from sitting at home on the dairy farm 10 minutes out the road. So then with other colleagues from WIT, I was able to, in the business school, Dr. Pat Lynch was able to actually write it up as a paper, the market model and the business model around animal health data. And then from that experience as well, being able to tap into a network and understand, like Louise is saying, they've been running webinars and that, to be able to understand how you can actually network and create events and everything. So when I was launching the business then, to be able to go to the local enterprise office and for Jackie, to not laugh at the fact that I wanted to start, a software company. And they have been, Jackie, Breed, Richie, they've all been absolutely fantastic in the local enterprise office for the last 4.5 years now. And last year, I can't remember the years yet, 2019, and they encouraged us to apply to the National Enterprise Awards, and we won a regional and a runner-up award there with their cheerleading. And now this year, Miguel mentioned Aidan, we're next door to Aidan Shine here in Seabic, and we're going through a funding process with them and with the H-band. So there's a massive ecosystem here, all available in a beautiful setting. So it's fantastic.
Brilliant. Sinead, thanks so much for that. Jonathan, what about this ecosystem that you live in?
Fergal, I can't talk highly enough of the Irish, in particular, manufacturing ecosystem. And it's one of the things I work for an American company that have their headquarters in Ireland. And one of the things that the drum I've been banging with them is that, number one, all our major customers are here in Ireland. I won't name them, but they're all here, right? And they're massive, massive biopharma companies. Number two, the ecosystem in terms of we're an IDA client company, but the ecosystem between IDA, Enterprise Ireland, the local enterprise office, you know, Irish manufacturing research, Miguel, the technology gateways, like I chair the industrial steering committee on the SEAM gateway. I know the work you guys are doing. You've got PMBRC over in WIT. I mean this, we're just a fantastic company to do business in, or a fantastic country, sorry, fantastic company too. But like the ecosystem is, it's just, it's fantastic. And it's what I keep saying to my guys. Like we've a plant in Estonia and we outperform those guys. I'm not being disrespectful to anybody, but we outperform those guys in terms of the networks that we're plugged into. And you could almost fall backwards into some of the networks in Ireland without knowing it. So you won't find a bigger fan of the Irish manufacturing ecosystem than me.
Well done, Jonathan. Guys, I'm going to finish up by asking you a little bit about your futures. So I'm asking you to think about, in the ideal world, where would you like to be in 5 years' time? Where would your organization like to be in 5 years' time? Louise, once again, we'll start with your good self.
Well, with Q1 Scientific, we've built up a wonderful business here, and we're really growing quite rapidly. We offer a service. We're the only ones that offer the service in Ireland as a standalone stability storage facility. I think if you want, the moonshot is that what I'd like to do is we'd like to replicate this facility in Europe. We're kind of looking at the Belgian market, because the Belgium have they're like a hub, you know, for Europe, and where our location would be very important. So I suppose that's really kind of, you know, the plan would be to sort of expand the business in that way, and have, you know, to future-proof the business and see how it will work. So that would be one of our biggest, sort of a big ambition, to, you know, to develop the business more.
Imagine having storage centres dotted right across the world, Louise.
The big plan.
The big plan. So we're allowed, only when you dream will it happen.
Absolutely.
Miguel, what about your organisation? Where would you love it to be in 5 years' time?
Well, you know, there's a little bit of there's a two-pronged kind of answer to this one. For us, obviously, we're looking at research and looking at what's ahead. And just to say a little bit about that, like we are carrying out research activities where we're manufacturing artificial cells that can be used within animals, and within those artificial cells, basically you can store ones and zeros, which basically means it's a biocomputer of some way, shape, or form. So we see ourselves being able to reapply software computing onto bio and bio type activities, and that's essentially where we're going from the wider perspective. However, from an industrial one, as you can hear from me, like my big remit is to be able to connect with people who are trying to move that needle on the innovation angle and need R&D help. And for us here through the TSSG, what we're looking to do is be a big part on the digital technology side, to be able to help every size of company, from the startup to the scaling SME to the SME, and helping multinationals. And you know, in 5 years' time, we want companies to be able to say, hey, look, those TSSG lads, they helped us. They helped us break the little back of that, so we're able to grow the company, or we're able to grow something in that direction. And we can see the seeds of it happening today. I can see that when I come back to you in 5 years' time, we're going to have a larger diaspora, a larger community here based on that technology.
Nice one, Miguel. Sinead?
Yeah, I would like us to keep growing calmly, competently, securely over the next 5 years would just be fine, Fergal. And yeah, it's my first spin at entrepreneurship, and so if I can survive the next 5 years like the last 5 years, it would be lovely.
Good on you. Good on you. Jonathan, where will that business be in 5 years' time?
Look, I've been around long enough to hear all the marketing blurbs that people come up with, right? And our company tagline is enable abundance in medicine. And honestly, that's not something that marketing just dreamt up. It's one of our founders had a very serious illness a couple of years ago. And he realized that there was days that he couldn't get treatment because somebody else was getting it. And you know, on the opposite of that, the days he was getting treatment, somebody else wasn't. So if we can just help to kind of develop these medicines, great. I mean, I'd love to say, you know what, Fergal, we're going to have 15,000 people working in a 200,000 square foot facility in Waterford. Yeah, that'll be nice. But if we can just keep developing the way we've been developing, we've expanded significantly. It's been fun and painful, but the expansion continues. So where will we be in 5 years' time? I have no idea. Don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think times they are changing so quickly. None of us. It's unknowable where we'll be in 5 years' time. But it's nice to. I like sometimes sitting down with a glass of wine and trying to have a think of where I would like to be in 5 years' time professionally.
I think if I could tell you that, Fergal, the next thing I'd do would be I'd go and do the lottery.
Good on you. Good on you. Well, maybe do it anyway, eh?
Yeah, I'll share it with you.
You never know. Okay, I'm sticking to that one. If I see your name coming up next week,
yeah, well, you're sharing the losses as well, all right?
No, guys, listen. So enjoyed that conversation. It really, really reassures me around the sunny southeast. As I said to you earlier on, I'm from Carlow originally. I still spend a lot of time in the southeast. Wexford is very dear to me as well. It's somewhere where I was born. And I was looking forward to this conversation, but I have to say I was not expecting for 1 second the sophistication of the businesses, the sophistication of the people, and what fantastic words you said about the beautiful, beautiful region that you live in. So I'd like to thank you very, very much. I'd like to thank Waterford Chamber, obviously, for their support, and Waterford Local Enterprise Office, Enterprise Ireland, who did play a role because they are the people who connected me with Toys4Engineers. Brian Fives did that job. So from the sponsor's point of view, I'd like to say thank you very much. From Linda's point of view, who I've been liaising with, thank you very much, but most especially to Louise Grubb, to Sinead Queally, to Miguel Ponce de Leon, and to Jonathan Downey. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks, Fergal.
Thanks, Mel.
Thanks, Fergal. Thank you very much.
Bye.